Is it the fate to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Bharat. Friends, a quick announcement. For the next meeting, we are really fortunate to have Sunil Shastri ji visiting and addressing us on learnings from the life of Swami Vivekananda. As a special gesture to include Anne's too, we have kept this address from 9 p.m. onwards so that most of the family members can listen to this fascinating session post dinner. Many thanks to Rotarian Pradeep Jaini for arranging the meeting. Friends, now the first initiative adopted by our club for the vision year. We kickstart the meeting with an educational video and an inspirational short video clip by a revered speaker. And today, being the topic on education, let us hear from Sadhguru his wisdom. Darshan, can you?
Largely, our education system was created just to provide clerks for Her Majesty's service. There was no imagination behind it. Obedience was the most important aspect of our education system. This is why you have to just mug up a whole textbook and keep it there, and that's what's supposed to be excellence in education. So, we are looking at how only a certain number of children need to go into academic education. Others need to learn other skills and variety of other things to do in the country. For their own well-being, not everybody's brains are made for academics, they simply suffer their academic life, a whole lot of them. Some of them have great joy in academics, a whole lot of them suffer their academic thing and the examinations and studying. How people are suffering, I'm seeing, these people should not be doing academics, they should be learning some other skills where their aptitude is. There is nobody to identify what is your aptitude, what is it that you could do well with joy. This needs to happen at an early time. Between the ages of 10 and 15, we must have a process in the education system where people can choose. And above all, it should be made… right now the problem, one reason why everybody wants to go to medicine or engineering is because there is a social prestige nonsense. An electrician or a carpenter must have the same prestige that a doctor or an engineer has. Only then education will get leveled out. Above all, a farmer must have a higher place in this society than any of us. He's feeding us.
Thank you, Darshan. Wasn't it lovely? Respected sirs and members, just to inform you that to give more justice to the star-studded evening today, we are skipping the second initiative of Members Ke Dil Se, wherein one senior and one new member share a self-introductory video, 2 minutes one. The objective being to bridge the gap between senior and new members and enhance bonding, since we almost are reaching 100 members as a club. We will play the same videos in the next meeting, please. Few quick announcements. Happy to inform that our flagship project of English speaking and personality development in vernacular weaker section schools will start online in the second school, that is Dhaneshwar Vidya Mandir, from September. The first school, Equira, has adopted the online course very well and is doing fantastic. Second, we are having a 5 days, 2 hours a day online workshop for 40 school principals and teachers on teaching with emotional intelligence from 29th of September to 3rd of October, conducted by Equipoise Learning, a pioneer in emotional intelligence training in India. DG sir, we have initiated work on the urban forest project, and with past President Uday Bhai, past President Pankaj Mahidar, Environment Director Vipul Gaglani, and new member Dipesh Shah, we have visited a live project in Borivali and will initiate a garden near Laljipada very soon. Now let me come to the topic of the day. Sirs, vision. It is said that vision is the art of seeing by leaders what is not seen to an ordinary person. Is quite apt for today's discussion. Nitin Komawar, when I spoke to him for the first time, had said, just 20 years back, if any of us did not know computers, we could still successfully do our business, profession, or even get a good, decent job. Today, can anyone do anything without the computer know-how? He cannot even get a basic, decent job. Secondly, what is the difference between India and USA or the developed world? Why US has so many innovators, and though most of the technology companies are headed or managed by Indians, still why cannot India innovate anything? Blaming education is incorrect, as all the tech wizards India has produced and are heading the US corporations are product of the same education system. Only thing that they have extra is they have sharpened their basic skills by further education in the developed world. The difference between the education or the fault line for the same lies in our focus. The Indian education system is still very much theory based, whereas the developed world is more on practical aspects. So, how can India produce innovators is the vision. Nitin Komawar and Rajendra Pradhanji have done an incredible effort of creating a program for the 6th to 10th standard students by blending the existing curriculum of math, science, and especially physics with practical understanding of robotics, IoT or sensor technology, artificial intelligence, and 3D printing, and making it more practical based at the same time, including the aspects of recently announced new education policy. All this may be blending with our Rotary International's theme for the year, Rotary Opens Opportunities. Dear sirs, we are planning to work on this ambitious project, as this project has the potential to usher in huge transformation in the education system and make the students employable very fast, and is aligned to the revolution happening all around the world in the technology. I would now like to invite my district governor, a truly visionary person, Rotarian Sunil Mehra ji, to share his thoughts and for the meeting today. Welcome, Sunil ji.
Thank you. Okay, am I audible now?
Yes.
Thank you. President Rajendra Bhatia, RI Director Kamalji, Namaskar and welcome to our district, sir. DGE, Rajendra, DGN, Sandeep. I'm not sure if there are other past district governors, but welcome. Our guest speakers for today, Mr. Nitin Komawar and Mr. Rajendra Pradhan, BS Deepak and AG Mayank. Co-hosts of this evening, President Nitin of RC Airport, President Kishore from Seacoast, and our two flames of the district, President Jyoti and President Jyoti. So you've got President two Jyotis and one Deepak as a DS. Mayank, you might have to change your name from RC Paleshwar and of course RC Kandivali. Members of RC Kandivali West, other club members, district officers, core team members, and my adorable visionary presidents. What is the significance of the word AI? Is it the Maharaja of Air India? Have you heard of the Britannica Encyclopedia? Have you heard the Oxford Dictionary? When was the last time the dictionary was opened to verify a spelling or then a meaning? Or let me ask differently. When is the last time we bought a dictionary, and is it still available on the bookstores? Some may not even have heard of these all, but that is now available at the click of a button. Gone are the days of official library visits to photocopy a few pages from an encyclopedia for a school project. In the youth of today, the unofficial visits to the library to meet her, of course, still carry on. The youth of today are a generation that has grown up with technology at their fingerprints. School children and even kindergarten, those in kindergarten, live in a world where education has changed and where the internet is the primary source of entertainment and information. My son a few years ago asked me, like you said, Rajinder, the name of the computer I used, to be shocked to hear that I did not have them during my school days. My granddaughter, a few months ago, she's all of just 6 years, said, Nana, now I can host you on a Zoom platform. As school education has moved to the virtual platform. Our meetings this year have been, barring very few, have all been conducted on the internet, as even this one is. Chalkboards and photostats in the classroom are a thing of the past. With the availability of smart technology, such as interactive whiteboards and tablet-based learning becoming more commonplace in schools. It is therefore inevitable, as technology continues to evolve and develop, so too will the way we learn. The rapid advancements of technology such as artificial intelligence, as is famously called AI, and robotics, has impacted all industries, including education. Again, my son is focusing his career on robotics and drone technology, where we had seen only airplanes and birds fly. Today we see wars fought through drone bombing and cars without drivers. The use of AI was seen so strongly in the Balalkot strikes that India took against Pakistan. The number of job opportunities for data and analytical skills is increasing drastically. Backend data analysis is how marketers are analyzing behavioral patterns and spending habits and trends. I recently read an article where Bajaj Insurance actually forayed into the market after 7 years of data crunching, a term often related to the use of artificial intelligence in the in-depth analysis of data. The gap between supply and demand of people with AI skills is growing tremendously, with millions of opportunities available. And the gap is resulting in even higher salaries for those in this field. If we hope to utilize AI's full potential for everyone, our focus should be on exposing the next generation to AI early on in their lives and using artificial intelligence even in the classrooms. And what will be the impact of AI in education? I believe that some educators fear the advance of AI and that it might replace the role of a teacher altogether. Teachers' jobs are not at risk of being replaced by robots. While artificial intelligence programs can teach literacy or maths, the way we teach will be different or maybe disruptive as the new cliche given to any new great business field this now. Artificial intelligence is already providing teachers and schools with innovative ways to understand how students are progressing, thereby allowing for a fast, personalized target curation of content probably. Managing of classrooms of 30 students makes personalized training a little difficult. However, AI can provide a level of differentiation that customizes learning specifically to an individual student's weaknesses and then of course strengths. And how will this come to the aid of teachers? Teachers don't only teach, they also spend hours grading papers and preparing upcoming lessons. However, certain tasks such as marking papers could be done by robots, giving the teachers a lighter workload and maybe flexibility to focus on other things. Machines can already grade multiple choice tests and are close to being able to assess even handwriting. There is also a potential for AI to improve enrollment and admission processes in colleges. Though of course I don't know of any software which allows taking donations. Artificial intelligence makes comprehensive information available to teachers any time of the day. They can use the information to continue educating themselves in things such as learning foreign languages or mastering complex programming techniques. Because AI is computer-based, it can be connected to different classrooms all over the world, fostering greater cooperation, communication, and collaboration among schools and nations. What could be some of the examples of artificial intelligence in education? artificial intelligence is being applied successfully in several educational instances and improves learning and student development as well as the educator's experience. These educational applications harness the power of AI to improve learning in students of all ages, from primary school through to college, and empower both learner and teacher with avenues for reaching their educational skills. Now, all of this is good news for teachers. Rather than spending hours differentiating instructions for every student, teachers will soon be able to rely on artificial intelligence to determine the specific needs of each student and deliver needed interventions of enrichment. A little about Rotary's plans to address this issue. We have started an entrepreneur project where we are identifying the youth, typically our younger branch called Rotractors. They are learning through a masterclass series of trainings, the nitty-gritty of being an entrepreneur, and then taking to the next level of assisting with angel investors. The other plan is at the vocational center at WADA, which we are in the process of constructing. An area of 1 acre has been given to us, where we are trying to make a vocational center. Thereafter, we are in the advanced stage of discussions with L&T, Bosch, and Art of Living, where the plan is to train the youth in vocational skills, which include artificial intelligence for being entrepreneurs and also part of the team. The thoughts are to train about 200 in every batch, then take 20 of the best to the next level of being skilled, and then maybe 2 to the highest level of being employers. This model will give employers and employees which have all been trained in the field of AI, thus taking care of the basic needs of skilled and semi-skilled staff, more so in this new field. We hope this project too also sees the light of day, as we are facing certain challenges in the current scenario, but things will happen for sure. And before I end, I need to emphasize the human teachers will always be needed to manage the classroom and to give students the encouragement they need. Personal motivation is what ebbs children to move forward. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, DG sir. Always a pleasure to listen to you, sir. Let me call upon President-elect Rotarian Bhavin Toprani to introduce both the speakers today. We are introducing both the speakers today together.
Good evening, DG Sunil Mehra, RID Kamal Sanghvi ji, Vision President Rajendra Bhatia, and all district dignitaries and all Rotarian and guests. Let me introduce our first speaker of the day, Nitin Kumawar ji. He is a successful entrepreneur and executive, co-founded and managed number of innovative technology companies in Silicon Valley and India. He holds master degree in computer engineering from St. Joe's State University, USA. He was grown up as a middle-class joint family in a small city near Nagpur, where education was given of the prime importance. His family now in multiple business, doctors, lawyers, engineers, and bureaucracy. He believes anyone can make difference in this world if they get the right exposure at the right time. He also believes anyone deserves a chance to chase their dream for building a better community and better world. Let's welcome him. And now we go to the our second speaker intro, Rajendra Pradhan sir. He is an education leader with over 2 decades of experience in education field. He has been active as a president of Shiv Shikshan Sanstha, which runs DS High School, Sion, for the past 7 years. He is an alumnus of the same school. To drive his vision, he has introduced number of skill building projects that complement school curriculum. And with his efforts, the school runs various projects like Shankar Mahadevan Music Academy, Dance Academy, Chitra Patang Visual Art classes, sports training under Let's Get Fit program, special classes for spoken English and e-learning, robotics, 3D printing, and IoT hardware designing on Raspberry Pi platform for more than 3,500 students who've come from the slum areas like Dharavi. And as a special initiative, for academically weak students, till now sidelined by the society. He has introduced Child Rehab Center for children with learning disability, along with counseling, and completely free of cost. Rajendra ji is an activist in a movement to prevent aided vernacular medium schools in Maharashtra from shutting down. He has recently initiated an ambitious project, Shiv Dhanushya, with an object to adopt 200 schools and enrich the lives of 2.5 lakh students. And he has been honored by Government of Maharashtra for doing exemplary work in the field of education. He is an electrical engineer and a trained aircraft maintenance engineer. He has over 40 years experience of aero modeling with building of large size aircraft models, working on a piston engine as well as gas turbine engines. He owns these planes, is a good flyer. He is a senior member of the Aero Modeling Club in Mumbai. Let's welcome both our distinguished guests with big round of applause.
Yes, Nitin ji, stage is yours.
Good. So let me see how I can share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Can you
let
make
me
it full
just thank
screen? Nitin ji, can you make it full screen?
yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Let me thank you, all the Rotarians, Rajendra ji. I think I met quite a few of them, Vinay ji, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this topic. And it was inspiring that even during the lockdown, you guys got the teachers and principals from various schools to visit, what we have done in the DS High School. That was really motivating to see the passion within everyone to support this initiative. Before I get into the presentation, I think it was amazing to listen to you also and Meeraji talking about the AI. Right? I was thinking where to start and what all area I can cover, but you have talked on the AI and quite interesting. Before I get into the presentation, let me just share my journey because there are a lot of things what you're doing is driven out of that.
नितिन जी, आपका वॉइस में वो क्लैरिटी नहीं है. If you can.
Can you hear me or not?
The voice is not clear.
I can hear you very well.
Okay, continue.
1 second. Can you hear now?
Yeah, it is there, but clarity. You can continue. No worries. Are there two things simultaneously working? तो echo हो रहा है voice. अगर video और mobile, laptop और mobile दोनों.
Rajendra ji, Nitin ji, can you come closer to your mic?
Okay. Just give me a second. Let me just check what Rajendra ji is saying, so that just to make sure that there is no other device trying to capture the
video या कुछ होगा ना, उसको बंद कर दीजिए mobile को. Parallel.
This one is probably going.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
This is better. Okay. So let me just quickly share the journey what I went through. So I'd spent last 26 years in the US. Came as done my engineering here, then worked with TIFR, and in '93 I left for US. And it's been an amazing journey in terms of what we could do in the US. We were the first initial batches to go to US. Like many others started going at the same time. And now if you see the whole US technology world, in 20 years, pretty much 1 lakh people went to US every year. I never thought I'll go and start businesses in the US, start technology company in the US. I just went there, to do a job, and do the education. But that place is amazing. And I'm highlighting this, how ecosystem matters, right? The ecosystem is such that anyone who goes there can think that they can make anything happen, right? So there's a lot of importance given to the creativity, thought process, and what you could do. And within first 4 years, I decided to start first company, and I'd done like 4 or 5 companies. And while doing all of my companies, I had an office either in Bombay, Pune. Now I have offices in Bangalore, Chennai, and like most of the entrepreneurs who have started companies in the US, they had got some operations in India, right? Now, while going through this journey, it was really fun that we could come out with a new idea, start the idea from the scratch. We had no connections in the beginning, right? I mean, in India, we know people, we have connections, but we are in a different country, but the ecosystem allows you to excel because the overall thought process to support ideas, creativity is there, right? So the bottom line, if I say I was one of the first few batches, right? And fast forward in 20 years, there are so many people started companies, and now the whole tech industry is dominated by the Indians. And somehow I always felt that we all studied from a simple background when we came to US, and we could start the companies, new ideas, new product technologies. Then why things are not happening here, right? That question was always bothering me. And I found basically 2 reasons that while there is so much achieved by Indians in the US, why same thing is not happening here, right? And there is something related to, education and some aspect of culture, which I'll go and cover, a little bit later. So the idea is, if you look at this whole century, I call it a 21st century is a knowledge-driven economy. If you go back, a couple of centuries, right, the technology was not there. It was there, but in some other form. But today, everything is driven through the knowledge economy. And India has the biggest number of students, right, who are knowledge trained. So how do you, bring some change here, which can empower that knowledge economy based on the innovation? That was the basic idea behind this project. So what I felt that after visiting many schools here, not only one category, but including IB schools, both the kids goes to the IB school. Schools like CBSE, ICSE, and then schools which are underprivileged or government driven, right? Across the board, across all the syllabuses, right? I feel that we really don't focus on applying the knowledge. Okay, that was one of the fundamental thing I found as a reason that why innovation is not happening in India, right? And that is the need of the time. So if you look at the video you just played by Sadhguru, right? It's all about does the student love what they're doing, right? Are they enjoying their education, right? Are they interested or not? If you take any class in school, right? And 10 years down the line, when you see the same people in the practical world, probably, you will see that, most of the toppers are not the game changers, but the second batch, who may not have topped the subjects, but they are the guys who can really make a difference, right? So it is important that while our education is good, right? How does people really get interested to really understand what that education means, right? That is another angle. So that's kind of a background, why we decided to do this project. And we started this 2 years back with the friends of a lot of people from US who has an industry background. And we came out with a curriculum and a program, and which is going on for last 2 years. And I'll share those examples and the videos so that you get the feel of it. I'll just go over the PowerPoints. I'm not used to going through the PowerPoint sequence, but Rajendra ji, you told me that we need to have PowerPoint, so I'm just going to share some of the PowerPoints. So I think why this project is important, right? One of the primary goals is how do you unleash the power of innovation through the next generation students? Okay, and the goal is through this project, can you transform the education methodology itself, because I found that is one of the reasons why we are not able to do innovation here or innovative thinking. Okay. Now, to understand what is required and why we are doing certain things in this project and the premise for that, I would like to cover some of the aspects in terms of what happened in the last 10 years or 15 years. All of us realizes probably that in last 15 years, the world has completely changed in terms of how we live and work. Now, one of the main reasons behind this is a deep penetration of technology. And in a practical way, what we are calling is smart applications and smart technologies, right? So the entire world is getting changed because of the deep penetration of technology in everything what we do. Just to understand some of the impacts of the technology in terms of what has happened, how it is happening, and where it is going. I've just taken some of the examples, right? So if you take Flipkart and Amazon, right from the morning till I sleep, whatever I need, it's available on my fingertips using my mobile phone. But there is a lot more which goes behind to support this whole infrastructure from a technology perspective. Now, what these two companies have probably done has completely changed the business in terms of how we buy things, what we buy, right? What we call in the technology world, as Miraji was saying, that disruption. It disrupted the whole ecosystem of traditional business, and the new business model got created. Now, through this process, we need to understand that how it is impacting the entire business economy or entire industry. And I want to go through a couple of more examples quickly. If you look at Google, right? Google has impacted the complete change, how media model was operating earlier, right? I mean, if you look at their ad revenue based on the search, based on the click-through, right? It has impacted the traditional media model, right? So that's a disruption, right? Again, it's completely technology driven. But if you look at the fundamental value proposition, we all depend on Google for the knowledge. If I need anything, Google is my knowledge assistant today. Now, if you go to the other two examples, Oyo and Swiggy, right? The hotel and the food industry is completely getting changed. Again, there's a disruption in terms of the traditional business model and the new business model. If you look at Uber and Ola, right? If I had told somebody probably 10 years back, you can have a software company which is worth billions in next 5 years. And what is the business? It's a taxi service. Probably nobody would have believed us. But we all knew it is coming, right? So there is a value which is provided by these smart technologies or smart application. And only because of that, they are able to disrupt the current model, right? So all these technologies are penetrating in every aspect. There's a company based out of Delhi. It's called Delivery. They're completely, it's like 6-year or 7-year-old company started by young IIM guys from Delhi and doing extremely well in the logistics and transportation. If you look at the top two names, Practo and Second Opinion, I don't call them as a real innovation in terms of technology, but still use of technology to create a new business model. Everyone knows Practo because now all appointments with doctor and hospitals can be done using Practo. And Second Opinion again started probably 5-6 years back. It's doing quite well. And fundamental value proposition is a guy from tier 2 city can access a doctor in Bombay who's a specialist, which was not possible earlier, sitting in that place. So that's a huge change because of technology. What I'm trying to drive here is the impact of technology, the penetration of technology, and I'll connect the dot with the education. There's another company called MG Hector. We can see a lot of automation using IoT or sensor-based technologies. Now, we saw Practo and Second Opinion, as we would call them, Generation 2 company. Now, if you look at Genome Medical or 10x Genomics. This is going towards personalized medicine, right? The amount of innovation happening in Silicon Valley is like, I can say, they're still 20 years ahead of, what is happening here, and we need to bridge the gap, why it is happening and why it is not happening here. So these companies are focused on genetic data. And if you look at the team composition, there is not just doctors, probably computer scientists, statistical people, and doctors. They are trying to decode the genetic sequence, and the whole technology uses data science or AI. Okay? There's so many companies coming in that same field, and it is happening at a very fast pace. If you look at manufacturing, in the US, we all talk about smart factories using IoT, sensor-based technology, basically connected factories to absolutely monitor each and every equipment on the factory floor. So you know what is the yield at any time, or if something is going wrong, you're not figuring out after 3 months. It's using IoT. Right? So I'm just putting this slide because our project is all about robotics, IoT, 3D printing, AI data science. Okay. Now, if you go to Amazon warehouse, it's fully automated in terms of using robots to pick, pack, ship. Right. There's a lot of software goes behind that also. Right. So every company is investing deep into technology, and companies who will not invest going forward may not able to survive. It's a question of time. We have seen many companies just going bankrupt because the whole disruption using new technology, new business model is changing the whole thing. So why we chose these 3-4 technologies, I'll come to the reasoning for that. These are the technology which is already changing the world, and the speed at which it is changing is unbelievable. What you saw in 10 years going to happen in 3 years now. Okay, so it's unstoppable. Nobody can say this is not moving fast. It is moving so fast. We're talking about Amazon delivering something using drone. They can do it today also, but legally probably it's not allowed to do as of now, but they're testing all those things, right? So these 4 technologies are going to have a significant impact going forward. So 3D printing, if you do any Google research on 3D printing, is one of the largest driver for the growth going forward. Now, the reason I shared this example, I'm not trying to digress from our topic of what is our project, but if you see how world has changed and what new kind of companies have come in the market, it is very important that education has to be matching to that speed in terms of what is expected by industry. What I've seen in the US in last 10 years, most of the syllabus of every engineering, okay, is completely changed. The speed at which they will make the changes in the course curriculum is amazing to keep up the speed with the industry. Okay? And if the school produces new course, you'll find a company based on that. Or if the industry is launching some new technology, you'll find the curriculum in the course. There's a second dimension to it. What we started calling now integrated science. It's no more, engineering means mechanical or electrical or a particular branch. If you take iPhone as an example, it has probably every possible engineering, and physics concept. It has got sensors, it has got software, it has got communication. If you look at the glass screen of the iPhone, it is a marvel of material science, right? So what is happening is, in every engineering branch, or even if you go into biology, people are learning data science. I may not be interested in engineering, but if I love biology and if I love data science, I can get 10 times more income than just knowing biology, because I can do bioinformatics, and that is going to be a part of huge healthcare applications in number of companies I mentioned. So you need combination of multiple skills. the students may not get better opportunity if they just focus on one skill. What I mean to say that you need to be applied and you need to also have a domain knowledge. So the change in the whole ecosystem in terms of business is going to drive the demand for new skills. And based on the new skill requirement, we need to make our education contextual. If we don't make it contextual, there'll be always a gap. So one of the main reason, which I was trying to highlight, that since our teaching is very theoretical and not applied, it's a problem for the innovation. Rajendra ji, already you covered this, some of the aspects of impact of the Indians, right? And I'll tell you some funny story, right? When we went to US probably 25 years back, there was no so much value being talked about Indians there, right? It was always considered as a, for a lack of better word, I can say, you can do it cheaper. Okay? Nobody imagined that based on what we learn with our background in India, same people can go and rule that industry in 20 years. Today, if there are 10 new companies started in the Silicon Valley, you'll find at least 5 of them started by Indian. Now, if you look at the leading CEOs of all the tech companies are Indians. Not only technology, but other industry also. I am saying this is also important, right? If you go to retail industry in the US, you might find a CEO who's a very technology savvy, but marketing skill also. Because he knows how to use data science to come with the innovative marketing idea to drive the competition out of business. Earlier, there was no much importance to a role called CMO in the company. It was always the sales guy is to lead after the CEO. But nowadays, people who know digital marketing, all the tools and means to run the program, they're one of the highest paid. And you'll be amazed, a lot of small startups in Bandra area, I found out, I'm involved in a couple of startups, they're trying to reach to the global market. Because now with the technology, they can also do digital marketing for any company in the US and can be still cheaper. What has happened in last 20 years, right? It's an amazing story. As I said, most of the CEOs are Indians. Most of the powerful position in many organizations, not only technology, but other companies is also Indian. But what is important to look at is how many people are there, right? Probably 10 to 15 lakhs people. And if you look at the contribution, this is the article probably, in one of the newspaper in the US. And I was asking people how much Indians contributed in the US economy only in last 10 years. And that number is huge. It's probably a couple of Indian economies. And how many people are there? Probably 10, 15 lakhs. So if we're going there and creating so much wealth in just 10 years, right? Then why it is not happening here with 1 billion people? That's a question I'm trying to raise. If you look at the market cap of all the companies in last 10 years, the landscape is completely changed. The biggest companies are not biggest companies, it's all technology driven companies. So this as a context, I'm trying to connect the dots to our project. So on one side, it's amazing if you look at the statistics. Students are getting more and more percentage. If I look at the percentage, probably what we used to get and what they get right now, nobody gets less than 95 now, right? So everybody is doing phenomenal. If you look at the statistics on number of engineers produced every year is around 16 lakhs. But at the same time, if you see the innovation happening in India is nowhere close to US. There are a lot of reports on the number of engineering graduates, right? Out of 16 lakhs, probably 2 lakhs are ready with the skill sets which industry requires. But most of the others, again, go back to take 6 months courses under some skill development or some training to find the job, right? So there is some problem in terms of we are not able to apply what we learn. So the conclusion is, while students are getting degrees and marks, we are not able to apply that. And this is a very important point, right? So I came through middle class background, simple schooling, Bombay, US, and I could go and start 4 or 5 companies in Silicon Valley. That means anybody can do that, right? But what we learned there was how the knowledge can be applied to to solve the real life problem. Okay. If I go to the basics about our current education system, right? Our approach is very theoretical. That means we just focus on practice to get marks. Okay. There is no importance to creativity. There is no collaboration. Second aspect is the teachers have limited exposure to the industry. What I mean to say is, if after doing engineering, if I had to ask people what job I should do or where I should apply, that is a big problem. They need to know at the school level what is happening in the industry right now, how industry is changing, what is happening. Although that exposure has gone up, but it is not happening at the school level yet. And the problem is, once somebody graduates, you cannot change the mindset. So if you want the innovation to happen, we got to fundamentally change the thinking at the school level. That is the main reason I found in terms of why innovative companies are not getting started here. You know, why not Apple started here? Why not Google started here? Tesla started here. I mean, if you look at the Tesla story, it's the largest car company now, started 10 years back. Nobody thought that Tesla can be bigger than General Motors or Ford, right? It's all about innovation, right? The whole wealth creation of last 10 years in all the developed countries like US is all through knowledge economy and technology, right? So now if you look at these 4 or 5 fundamental problems, it's a theoretical teaching methodology. Teachers have limited exposure to the industry. There is absolutely no connect between the education institute and the industry. Very, very important, right? Now, if you look at those points, there are a lot of teachers training program, right? But the pace at which industry is changing, you just cannot match to that. So there has to be some different solution, right? So while we are calling that we are using IoT, robotics, data science, 3D printing in the classes, we are using the technology to introduce industry. We are not teaching technology. We're teaching the same science, because all of these technologies came from the same science and math. That is not changed. What you studied, 25 years back, 30 years back, those principles have not changed. All the innovation came through the same principles, right? So somewhere we need to fix this exposure of the student to the industry and make it more collaborative, make it more hands-on, make them think different, make them think out of the box at the school level itself. And it is not tough. We have done it for the last 2 years and we got amazing results. Otherwise, with the current system, what we're saying is talented student means, marks scored. And the last line, right, which was the gist of Sadhguru's video in the beginning, right? Our current education system was designed way long back to create followers and not thinkers. And we need to bring that shift right in the beginning. You can't teach, you can't develop that thinking post-graduation. After the graduation, after your degree, you just cannot change the mindset because there are different paces for the people to find the job and stuff like that, right? So that needs to be started at the school level. Right? And Bill Gates always said, right, if you look at any, people ask the question, right, which other country can compete and do the innovation, right? And you'll probably find the answer, mention India, right? This is like probably 10 years back, right? So that means we have all the ingredients. Our syllabus is good because we studied the same thing, but people have to went outside to show the success. That needs to be created here, right? And we need to change that, the fundamental thinking at the school level, right? So for the growth of any country, right, these 3 or 4 things has to go together, right? Industry creates the new demand for the new skills, right? Government needs to play a role as a catalyst in terms of new policies and infrastructure. So I'm very happy that if you look at the new syllabus, a new curriculum or the pattern they announced, right, it will still take 5 years. Although they had a lot of good things. If you heard about the Atal Labs initiative, number of things, right? But to have the execution happen at the school level, there are a lot of things that are required, right? But there are enough efforts has been put in to change the curriculum. They're talking about make it more exploration based, hands-on based, right? So by the time everyone gets a chance, it will take 2-3 years, but I think that change is coming, right? Role of education institutes is to shape the skill, right? We talked about one of the important things I think Mehraji was talking about, right? What we are saying right now with this approach, the teacher has to become facilitator. It's not just one-way communication, right? You teach something and the student has to come back and say, can I do this? Can we do that? Is it possible, right? Make it more collaborative. Then only we can create a talent which is needed for this new industries. And I think without technology knowledge, it will be very hard going forward for the students or anybody to leverage the right opportunity. And the last but least, right, new skills can create new industry and new job, right? So industry and education needs to feed each other. And there is no better example than Silicon Valley, right? It'll be amazing if you see all the companies we talk about. I mean, I've been staying in a place called Cupertino, which is Apple headquarters. Stanford and Berkeley are the two main institutes. There are many other colleges, good colleges, right? And it's amazing that, you know, what happens in industry, it's taught in the school or a college. Or if the professor comes out with a new concept, you'll immediately see a new company based on that. And it's not about engineering, right? It's all combination now. So every new business is a combination of multiple skill sets. And you will see that's happening in the healthcare. Nowadays, if you go to the doctor's appointment in US, right? By the time doctor comes and see the patient, he already knows what are the possible reasons for me, because the data science and AI, it says, okay, here is the person of this age, Asian, food habits, this health. The system goes and searches possible match, possible causes, and tell the doctor ahead of time, there are 3 reasons possibly. The doctor has to probably discard 2 and, you know, make his decision that, okay, this is the most possible cause, right? And same thing will happen in teaching, but that doesn't mean there will be job loss, right? Then it's a debate about, you know, who will take over, robots or a human being, right? I think humans will drive the growth. We're going to leverage these robots to increase the productivity. All the developing countries talks about the productivity because without productivity, you can't increase the GDP. So that being the context, right? Why we're talking about using these technologies at the school level, right? And I'm repeating again, I'm not saying these are robotic classes or IoT classes or 3D printing classes or data science classes. Yes, these are technologies. Right now, it will help 2 ways, right? Teachers will also get exposure about industry in terms of what is happening today because they're using that technology. And students will learn through the application and not just theoretical. Okay? So it will solve both the problems. You know, it will connect the industry also. It will give a better exposure. And you're using technology as a means to teach the same thing what they're learning in the school right now. If you take a syllabus of physics from standard 6 to 10th, they only cover 4 or 5 concepts, nothing more than that. But you go and ask a student who probably got 99% in physics in 7th standard, something new in the 8th standard, he doesn't remember. The problem because he never related that concept with the real life. So if you keep mugging, you got to keep mugging, right? And then you can't think different. Right? So that has to change. We're not changing any fundamental concept of science, right? Those concepts are same. Use the technology as a means to teach and connect the industry. So what we did actually at the, you guys have seen the lab, right? We created curriculum for each of these robotics or IoT or a data science or a 3D printing, right? every session is like a problem solving. There's a storyboard that, okay, you got to think about, we got to solve this problem. Okay. And the goal of that class is students hands-on build the solution to solve that problem. So either using robotics, either using IoT, either using 3D printing, right? Or a data science. And we're making sure that all these technologies are connected. I'll give you an example, right? I can solve weather forecasting using data science, but in IoT, we got to teach them how to collect the data using technology at many places. So and it's a very simple way to teach. So it's all about a methodology change and then connecting the dots. So what happened because of that, they start connecting their syllabus with the real life. So when you teach Newton's first law, and you ask most of the students, they will by heart tell you what the Newton's law is, right? But you ask in the second question where it is applied, they don't know. And the problem with that, you just cannot think different. You're just like mugging things, right? That needs to change. So in every class, we connect all the fundamental concepts of math or physics, right? You may not be able to cover everything, but whatever is required by 10th or 11th standard, the basic fundamental principles, they will be so good, and they will be as good as junior engineers. I'll share one of the example that two of the engineering college directors came and visited this DS high school, and they asked a lot of questions to these 9th standard students. And we have this recording. They said, don't say it to anybody, but our third year engineering students cannot answer these questions, which your 9th standard students are answering from DS high school. So we feel good about the impact we created on those students in last 2 years. And it's all about giving the right exposure through the technology, through the examples, through the application, and stick to the fundamental of science. So I'm just going to share some of the photographs so you guys get the idea in terms of this is probably, so in the robotics, there are 3 different levels, right? Student starts at the very basic at called simple machine. Then they learn about pneumatics, and then they go into programming as such. That's the level. They also have, if you see the middle picture, you're teaching them, how to use alternative energy, conversion from this energy to that energy. And making sure that through each of this, they know the formula which is given in their book. This is the 3D printing class. It's amazing. I mean, you guys have seen what they've built in that lab, right? They can do anything. We had a visitor. He is a orthopedic surgeon. I think it came through one of the Rotary Club only. And I don't remember his name, right? So he asked the student that I create this Jaipur leg. So if I give you design, can you work with me to print that leg? And those girls at 9th standard were so confident that next day they showed like, some mold of the hand. If we could do this, we can do that also with you. So the amount of confidence they get when they do something hands-on is amazing. This is the class where they're using, this is a little bit advanced. They're using Raspberry Pi and sensors to do the IoT. IoT means, if I look at a curriculum where they'll do security application, energy saving application, so they see it as a problem, like we grew up with parents saying, switch off that light, switch off that fan, switch off AC, right? So we tell them, okay, this is a problem. How can you solve it technology, right? There's a storyboard for them to understand, right? So if there's a motion, you detect that motion, and based on that motion, you switch off the button, right? So Raspberry Pi can be used to do that. So they build these applications. And this is done by 8th standard, 9th standard kids. And it took us like 4 to 5 sessions for them to get going. And the moment they build their first solution, you will see phenomenal difference in their approach and thinking process. They'll beat anybody. I'm going to play 2-3 videos because loading video was a big problem with the Zoom meeting. So I'm just going to make the attempt.
First try like this once.
Which one? Okay, just play it.
Can you pause it there and answer it?
Can you guys hear this? Otherwise, I'll put a speaker to make you hear.
Then we can learn.
So in this class, you can see they have built a boat using simple machine. And what they're learning here is how the force and a surface area can make a difference. Now in their physics book, they have all this definition. You know, what is the relevance between the surface area and the force and all the stuff. And they will tell you by heart. But here they do it practically. So what they learn here is more surface area, it travels a longer distance, right? Now you ask them question about any concept in that chapter, right? They will tell you very confidently. I always like to tell the story of this guy. This guy was from 5th standard when Rajendra Pradhan started this initiative. It was only allowed for the 6th above students. And this guy saw this lab from outside and he came and stood there for 1 hour. He said, I want to be part of this. And so we told him, no, your school is not allowing. So you have to go and get the permission. So he went and stood at Rajendra Pradhan's office for an hour to get the permission to be part of this program. And it's amazing how much this guys have done. Probably he has done better than even 7th, 8th standard because he loves to be hands-on.
राजेंद्र जी अपना नितिन जी इनका आवाज नहीं आ रहा है.
No,
एक मिनट. I'll just make the arrangement. So these videos were not shot by a professional, right? This was captured by our mobile phones. We had a plan after the march to have a proper videos of the students, but unfortunately the lockdown, we couldn't do it. Just give me 5 seconds. I'll.
नहीं आवाज नहीं है.
Rajinder, he has to unmute himself. Nitin ji, please unmute yourself.
आपको अनम्यूट करो. नितिन जी तब तक नहीं होगा वो.
Now play it again.
Nitin ji, if you can stop sharing and then restart sharing, in that click that the audio part. Stop sharing, then restart sharing, and in that click computer voice. There will be a or should I share your presentation?
No, I got it.
Converted into kinetic energy.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, it's clear.
Yes.
As this pulley is going down, so it is moving this lever, so connected to this gear, so other gears. It works on fully as it is. Now I will show how it works. Go back.
Sorry.
First increase the volume.
That's maximum. That's max.
It is taking him down. So the potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. So afterward, see, as this pulley is going down, so it is moving this lever, so connected to this gear, so other gears are moving. So this is called a compound gear system. Means one gear on, only one axle and many gears on that axle. See, this is a ratchet that, this is a pendulum. Everybody see this pendulum in old type clocks. But when the pendulum moves, it controls the inside, which is called ratchet. Ratchets control the speed of the clock as the ratchet is moving like this. See. last one lever, which means fulcrum, effort and load. This is our fulcrum, this is our load, and this is our efforts.
You know, one beauty of this, he doesn't have any of.
Okay, I'll share the next video. So this guy could explain if you change the length, right, how he calculates the time interval, what is the relationship of kinetic energy and all the stuff. This is from
नितिन जी थोड़ा last video करते हैं इसके बाद I think we are
yeah last.
Manufacturing, what is manufacturing? Manufacturing means making of products and selling them. So this is a 3D printing. 3D printing means a process in which the objects are made slice by slice to get a solid object. So as we see first that the people were drawing the objects and they used to make the objects which they want. But now it is easy to make these objects. We can make the object and we can set the dimension, size and length, breadth, whatever we want in this software. And then this software gives a signal to the printer and we get a 3D print of an object. So it is the uses of this printer is that the manpower usage is reduced and it is the object is printed in less time and the less waste is there and we can customize our object as we can. So now I will say the process of the data in the printer. So now we have designed your data completely. So this is Tinkercad. From here you will go to the Ultimate Maker Cura. In this app, the data or object which you have made, this app will slice the data and then we have sent the data to the printer. So we have gave the commands to the printer has started. So now we can see the process of the printer that here is the material of filament which goes to the heater. Heater melts that material and this goes to the nose stream. Then from the nose stream that heated material comes and the printer starts drawing the object. This pad use or helps to the printer for the shape, height and size. This can be used in educational purpose, automobiles and medical field also, etc. Thank you.
Now, this is just an example, right? So they've gone through a journey of learning this, right? Variety of things, combination of robotics, combination of IoT, sensors, right? And we'll always kind of encourage them, think about the real life problem and can you solve it, right? So at the end of it, they all did some interesting projects. If you see the top rightmost corner, right? This guy has used multiple, robotic kits to create a machine. I mean, it's not that it doesn't exist in the world, that machine exists in the world, right? But he hardly is in 7th standard, right? He's got, grass cutter, picking, everything he has combined in one single machine. And he's a son of one of the farmers. So he said, if I build a machine, I can help in farming. So what it is, what it does, it really empowers them and get motivated to be part of the education. They really understand what this education is all about, and they will start thinking different. This is pretty much, I hope you guys got the idea in terms of what this project is and what we have done at the DSI school.
Yes, Nitinji. Thank you. I think we are overshooting the time, so I need to just little bit rush.
Nitinji, can you please stop the screen sharing, please?
I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you, Nitinji. It was fascinating to hear. I don't know where did we go. The time has gone really overshot. Rajendra ji, can I ask Kamalji? Kamalji has to leave for some another meeting. He has another commitment. So before you talk, I think can I ask Kamalji to address us and share his feedback?
Sure. definitely.
All right. Thank you,
Kamalji.
President Rajendra. Such a pleasure to be here. So nice. Thank you for having me here. Let me first start by commending you and Rakesh for curating this wonderful seminar or interaction or deliberations, a much needed deliberation. I thought this is very the need of the hour that you have had this, and you've got this brilliant speaker. Nitinji gave a brilliant, I mean, unbelievable. The initiative, Nitinji, which you have taken is just outstanding and much needed. You have stayed in Cupertino. Yes, I have visited that as a Rotary International Director, and I had the fortune of interacting with many of the CEOs because they held a reception. The mayor of Cupertino held a reception honoring Rotary there and the work which Rotary does. So it was great to meet everybody in Cupertino. But having said that, thank you, sir, so much for the insight which you've given. And you spoke about the disruptive innovation. I think that's the order of the day. It will be very, very surprising. And last week I was in Singapore addressing a meeting in Singapore, and the Dean of Nanyang University said the same thing. He says, you'll get up in the morning and you'll see your business is gone without even at no fault of yours. Someone has just taken it over through disruptive innovation, and you just kaput, you're finished. So this is the era. This is the era when we need to really think and be on our toes all the time. And coronavirus has radically transformed the world in a matter of months. Schools and businesses have moved to the new ways of working, making the pandemic as life-changing as it is unprecedented. As the chair of RILM, it makes me wonder about the future of education and the sheer scale of the impact that coronavirus has had on the education sector. Online schooling has given us a glimpse of how education could change in the coming years. Technology has become an integral part of this new reality. Upending current educational practices, like Nitinji said, models and innovations and processes, digitalization of education was already underway before the pandemic. But the crisis has accelerated the transformation perhaps, and education is the only sector which holds the maximum potential for such a transformation. And I think the transformation, not only from students' viewpoint, it has to be from teachers' viewpoint. Traditional classroom methods have had and has to shift to rapidly tech-led holistic solutions, which Nitinji spoke about, and I'm sure Rajendraji will speak about it in the after this deliberation. But having said that, for teachers and students to adapt successfully to technology solutions that are available right now, we need to address many, many challenges. Digital content for online teaching is, I think, is a big challenge. And to meet up the challenge, Nitinji, I just want to fill you up that Rotary has risen to that. NCERT is launching on the 8th of September, 12 channels for e-learning for children of government schools, as per the curriculum of NCERT, and Rotary has curated the entire e-learning platform and program, all the 12 channels. So we are going to launch on the 8th of September the largest e-learning program of India, and the entire program which will benefit 15 crore children to start with. And when the COVID is over, that program will be loaded onto the hardware of each government school. And so then nearly about 25 crore children will benefit from this. So these are the new orders of the day, new ways things have happened. Also, the teachers have to learn very strongly, because the assessment, evaluation process, the teachers is how to continue to engage students and keep an eye on their progress from afar, from their rooms, from the bedroom. They have to look after children. For teachers, classroom assessments are an integral part to assess the effectiveness of the teaching activities, keep track of the individual learner progress, provide useful feedback for improvement. So various platforms, you've been speaking about some platform, but Kahoot, Hot Potato, Edpuzzle, Google Classrooms. So many things are happening at such a fast. Google Docs, you spoke about Google as being the ultimate guru. Everyone, probably. Lastly, I went to a doctor a couple of days back with my son. And, the doctor had a poster outside his door. And he says, I'm sure you have visited Google and you know all about your disease. So even the doctors are surprised. So that was very interesting when the doctor had that. And as soon as my son entered and he asked, what are you doing? So my son is also an IT professional working for the Swiss Bank at Pune. So he asked him, have you visited Google before you came to meet me? And prompt came the answer, yes, doc, I visited Google. So do you need to know about your disease? And my son said, no, I don't need to know. I just need to know, I need you to write a prescription as to which medicine which I took, because he very nicely says is that Google does not provide me the medicine which I should take. So that is the only thing left for the doctor. So so a lot of things, flip the classroom, so many things, presentation, language, communication, technical skills, everything has to change drastically. And looking into the future, looking ahead to a time when schools reopen, it's much more likely that educational technology will be integrated into the curriculum. And that's exactly what we are trying to do, is to educate. And Nitinji, you spoke brilliantly. And there is no answer as to how each one of us institutes should react to these changes, but it is important. All institutions will react differently to these different stimulus, different changes, different thought process which come into the industry and at large. Students more feel, one good thing with Nitinji, I just want to share, because you are an educator. One good thing which has come up with the students with this e-learning platform, students have shied away. They were usually very shy of asking questions in the school because they are shy of looking at the teacher in the eye. But now on an e-learning platform, more and more students are asking more and more questions. And I think that is extremely important. The practicality of education has come into the system of education. And I think that's asking questions. And also teachers have become more confident answering those questions through this e-learning platform. But having said that, however, online learning is still not expected to outshine the traditional classroom learning. This experience is highlighted, as if we did not know already, that schools are not merely places where children go to get an education, but schools are places where they learn how to do their living styles, how they learn to conduct their lifestyles, how they learn to upbring themselves, how they learn to follow different aspects of life. So there is going to be a mix, interesting mix after the pandemic is over in these current times, as how will you amalgamate the technology along with the in-person education. So I am looking forward, and at RILM we are looking forward, and we are ready for a lot of innovations which are coming in. E-learning is one platform, adult education is another platform. Government has challenged us because in the new adult education policy, it has been very clearly mentioned that they'll do all projects with RILM, with Rotary India Literacy Mission. Government of India will do that. So they have challenged us. I am grappling with a lot of challenges as heading that institution. I would be more than happy, sir, if you could help me and be part of our, with your knowledge and technology and Rajendraji's knowledge and technology. I think we can all curate something which will be fantastic for the organization. And so thank you very much, sir, for being here. Rajendraji, I'm so sorry that I cannot. I need to go.
I appreciate, sir. You had informed earlier also.
I am extremely sorry. Probably someday I will do an interaction with you alone.
Sure,
which I need to do, sir. So please forgive me for my exit.
It's a pleasure, just yourself being here. So it's a great.
Sir, thank you so much.
Rajendra, may I intervene for 2 minutes, Kamal?
Yeah,
so,
please.
Kamalji, while I'm very grateful to you for having come here,
yes, sir.
And because of your short time, you even didn't allow me to give you your introduction, which is fine.
Right.
But for the benefit of Nitinji and Pradhanji, not only is the Rotary International Director who sits on the International Board of Rotary International, representing one zone of India, but also he's the chairman of the Rotary India Literacy Mission, which is carrying out humongous and most meaningful work in various spheres. So I think any involvement, and that's why when I saw this beautiful topic, I had visited the DS school at the inauguration of these labs, and I was so impressed even at that time. So when I saw this, I requested Rajendra Rajendra Bhatia, our president, that you should think a little bigger and maybe involve Rotary India Literacy Mission in this. He was very gracious and did it. And before I let you go, Kamal, I must add to that Google joke of yours. So for everything I need, I usually Google and get the information. But sometimes Google doesn't have the information. That time I go to my wife and ask her.
So thank you, Sandeep, for having me and allowing me to be present. But let me also commend Sunil. Is Sunil here or is he left?
No, he's here.
But if he's
I'm
here,
here,
if he's
sir.
left, please
I'm here,
convey
I'm
my
Yes,
comment. Sunil, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Sunil, thank you. You were brilliant today. I mean, the disposition which you gave was outstanding. Maybe you can share your notes with me. I can use those notes for a meeting like this in ahead for artificial intelligence. So thank you, Sunil, and thank you, everybody. बुरे वक्त से गुजर रहे हैं. Be safe and sound in your houses. Look after yourself and look after your family members. Enjoy the fruits of love in your households. And take care of your elders because they are the ones who are most vulnerable. And please keep safe distancing. And just before I leave, let me just say a small thing. उम्र थका नहीं सकती, ठोकरें गिरा नहीं सकती. उम्र थका नहीं सकती, ठोकरें गिरा नहीं सकती. अगर जिद है जीतने की नितिन जी जैसे, तो परिस्थितियां हमें हरा नहीं सकती. मनस्थिति बदलिए, परिस्थितियां बदल जाएगी. God bless you all. Good night. Have a great day. Enjoy yourself. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kamal.
Thanks.
Thank you. Very grateful. Okay, Rajendra ji, can I invite you, sir? Rajendra Pradhan ji. And I would like to request if we can just shorten it. It's a long wait for you, but still I have to humbly request you because we are nowhere near the timing now. So.
Yes, I understand that. So I will start, and I will. Nitin has covered, most of the points and everything. So I will be talking about from the point of view of students, school, and how the whole thing can be done. First of all, Mr. Rajendra Bhatia, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to present this case. We are really happy that you could make it even during the COVID program, visit our school and, see the whole setup and everything.
It was a pleasure to see.
When the school starts, when the school starts, we will definitely have more opportunity. And then Mr. Sunil and all the Rotarians, I thank you for giving this opportunity. We are really looking forward to working together. So I will start with just very brief introduction. I am an electrical engineer, and after my bachelor's, I joined Air India as an aircraft maintenance engineer. And after 5 years of service in the year 1988, I started my own business where we used to develop microcontroller-based control system for pharmaceutical industry, for railways, for defense and everything. So that was my first business. So where this comes from, my passion for this particular project. I mean, education, yes, last 20 years I've been involved in uplifting a lot of these people, but this particular project is very close to my heart because that's something which is a passion for me. And at school, I was not really one of those academically excellent students. I was one of the backbenchers and, not very poor, but I was a tinkerer. And right from 6th standard, when one of my father's friend, presented me that Jet King radio, which you needed to solder together, assemble and do that. That was somewhere in 71 when I was in 6th standard. My love with electronics started. And then even though I did electric, and when I did electrical engineering, electronics was extremely small part of this whole, thing. We were dealing mainly with motors, power and distribution and a lot of other things. So electronic was very small part of it. But because of my tinkering, because of my first-hand knowledge, I could, learn a lot of things and make that into a successful business. And that's where I come in from. So having said that, I have done many businesses. I'm still doing this. So that is one. Then I'm into textile screen printing, garment exports, I've done software development, then food, bakery and all that. So all those things are happening. Fortunately, my son and my nephews are now looking after these businesses. So when I got into this education, now this is our Samstha. This is the school where I studied. It's a 80-year-old Samstha. And the USP, the ultimate, sales point of this our institute, I always tell people, is that all the trustees of this Samstha are ex-students of the same school. So all of us have come together basically to give back to the society. And the reason is that all of us have come from very, very humble background. I mean, we were just grateful to our parents that they could give us good education. That's it. I mean, there was not much expectation at all. If we had to get married, if we had to buy a house, we had to do many things in life. We knew we had to do it ourselves and we had to excel in that. So getting that education was very important. And so these are typical middle class families of 70s. Okay. Today, the kind of students which come to our school, it's a vernacular school, Marathi medium, and it's one of the biggest school in the state. We have 3,500 students, but most of them come from the lowest strata of the society, whether it's sociological or economical. Almost 20% of the students don't even get 2 square meals. Okay. During our times, most of the students either went to municipal school or they did not study at all. They somehow managed to scrape through 3rd, 4th, 5th standard, dropped out, and then did whatever they could and somehow worked that. So having that kind of background, we have been looking at how we can enhance their life. Now, the other problem is that we have these children only up to 10th standard. I mean, there's not much we can do beyond 10th. Okay. And almost more than 50% of our students cannot go beyond 10th standard because they can't afford to. I mean, going to college or they get decent marks. It's not that they don't get decent marks, but they are just not able to afford further education. And there's a pressure in the family for them to start earning money. So somehow they finish their 10th standard and try to get jobs somewhere, whether it's manual labor or whatever, and they get on with their life. So our focus has been how do we do something when they are in school and to improve their life, give them knowledge. And this is where when I met up with Nitin and we started discussing together, our thoughts really came together and we said, this is it. This is what we need to do. One is Nitin always said, and we always knew that our guys go to USA and they do very well. Like today, major companies, they're headed by Indians. But somehow same education that we receive here, we are not able to go beyond it. And only reason that we came to conclusion was the kind of exposure that we need to give these children. And that is what has really made the difference. With Nitin's initiative, I mean, he pumped in a lot of money to begin with, getting the kids and all, developing curriculum, doing complete deep research, going with the industry. Because one thing that we really wanted to do was ensure that it's industry relevant. It should not happen that we teach them something and when they come out, it's not relevant to the industry. There is no taker, as it is happening. I mean, we are creating electronics engineers. Okay, we are creating IT engineers. But if you really put them to work, you will find that they are not able to do anything hands-on immediately. They need extremely large duration of period before they can come to any use. When they go to USA for higher studies, that 2 years of MS is really something that grills them, puts them in the right frame of mind and makes them start innovating. And then of course they are in an environment where innovation is basically encouraged. Now, if you see, there's a lot of these videos going around in the WhatsApp and Facebook also, you will see that most of these like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all those companies were started in garages and by basically children. I'm saying children because they started when they were in school. Now their school means up to 12th standard. So these were actually school children, or they were college dropout, in sophomore year or first year or second year, who started their whole labs into their own garages. So this is the kind of thing that we needed to provide to our children, and that is what we are doing. So the point I would like to make is we need innovation in our country. We have this huge mass of children. They have knowledge, they have brains to think, and they have brains to innovate. But you can't catch them when they are in 10th or 12th or when they become engineer, because by that time their mindset is very much fixed. Most of them are under pressure to take up a job and start earning. If they are in 10th, they are worried about their 10th marks, then they are about 12th marks and everything. So innovation basically goes out of the window, and all that is left with you is basically a robot who is just going to mug up things and then do things. And that is how this program becomes very important, that you start early. We started our program in 7th standard. Step by step, I'll just briefly go. We have first stage, which is robotics. So in the robotics, basically all the principles of physics, maths, pneumatics, hydraulics, simple basic electricity. So like whether it be batteries, motors, motor control, that is taught. Then basic simple levers, majors, simple machines, basically levers, gears, those are all explained. Then we go to next stage where you have renewable energy. So how do you apply renewable energy? What can you do to create energy, store energy, that part. Then we cover basic electronics, and we jump to IoT, Internet of Things, where we use Raspberry Pi platform and Python programming. I'm sure some of you would have heard of Python programming. It's becoming a very popular language, especially for the hardware development. It's also used in software and web designing and everything, but hardware development, it's very commonly used language. So we are teaching them this language and Raspberry Pi platform, so where multiple sensors, whether it's thumbprint, camera, lights, motion sensors, humidity sensors, temperature sensors. I mean, there's a huge array of sensors that you can interface together, connect it on this Raspberry Pi platform, write a program, and you can make these things work, whatever you want to do. Whether you can create a machine, you can create a sensor, you can create access control system, you can create a photography system, remote security system, and as basic as a controller for your home, where from your smartphone, you can just control your light, fan, AC, wherever you are in the world. Now, this is something which basically a school child is going to be able to design. So you can imagine the impact it will have when he passes out of 10th standard. He has this kind of knowledge. He can actually do something because he has done it hands-on, he can design it. He becomes readily employable, or he can do this as a business, or if he's lucky enough to go for higher education, then it will definitely supplement what he's doing. Now, the example that Nitin gave from one of the leading engineering college in Mumbai, I don't want to take their name on this platform, but they actually visited our school when they heard that we have such programs started, and they were very curious because in their engineering college for third year engineering student, now this is a student who has finished his 12th and then has done 3 years of engineering, education. They have this kind of program. So they said, let's see what these guys are doing. What can they teach 6th, 7th standard students? And when they came and interviewed the students, they were totally amazed. And that is when they made that classic statement that even our third year engineering student will not be able to explain the way these children have explained, which are like 6th to 8th or 9th standard students. So that shows that if we provide a right type of platform, if we provide a right type of education, it will make huge difference. And then it becomes completely student agnostic, whether he comes from rich family or poor family, whether he's topper or he's one of the average student or even one of the bad academic student. It will not really matter. The criteria which we chose for selecting, because initially we could not offer this program to every child. So we said we will go through aptitude test, and it will not be like that, let us say somebody who gets 90% plus only will be allowed for this particular program, because we had limited resources and we had to take care of these things. So we had students basically, which included 90%ers as 35-40%ers. But the aptitude test showed that they had an aptitude for technology and electrical and engineering and everything. And we found that it was brilliant. I mean, those even 35-40%ers, 45%ers, they really started doing very well in this particular technology. And when that worked for them, their academics automatically started improving. So we have seen some classic stories that this 35-40% started getting 70-80% in their academic subject because somehow they gained that confidence that, okay, I am not all that bad. Okay, it's just that I need to improve things. And as you know, that science and maths are one of subjects which many people find or many students find very difficult to understand. So this education system that Nitin has developed makes it extremely easy to understand all those concepts. Now, as I was explaining, we have IoT, then we have 3D printing. So 3D printing explains to you about drawing, so which covers mathematics, geometry, the design, machine designing, how to design a product and everything, and create that product with a 3D printer. So all this combined together, they can create a complete product. So if they have innovated something and they have created a product, they don't really have to go anywhere else. I mean, traditionally, we had to make a die. Even if it was a sand casting, it was all time consuming and expensive process. But here they can have a finished product, which will just immediately be presentable, working, and they can, start supplying that also. So this is the funda on which this whole thing is program is based. And the last part is data science. It's just as, we have one of the best weather satellites in the world. In fact, few years back, when American weather satellites, they had a problem, technical problem. They were using Indian weather satellites to get their data for their, weather data and everything for themselves, and they were using it. But we always find that our predictions are not as good. Okay, you'll find that in USA or some of the European countries, if they say it's going to rain, it will rain. If they say it's not going to rain, it's not going to rain. In our places, even though we are becoming little more accurate over a period of time, it's still not that sure. And what really makes that difference is the data. I mean, United States has data right from 1800, that era till today. So they have such a huge database that they can process that a particular condition where the atmospheric pressure was such, temperature was this, light was this much, so on, and they can predict the whole thing, create a model. So that is becoming a next best thing to study and go for. So what we are trying to do here is basically teach these children these basic fundamentals. So fundamental of science, fundamental of electrical systems, fundamental of computer, IT, IoT, 3D printing. Now these three and the fourth, data science, together are expected to generate economy worth almost $30 trillion. Okay, that's what it's going to be in next 30 years. It's massive. I mean, it's tremendous kind of field. I mean, that's where you will see. I mean, already we are heading towards it, and it's just going to get better and better over a period. So if we train these children at this point in time, at this age, we are definitely going to make their lives better, make them self-reliant. And not only that, I mean, our aim is that this whole system has to become a sort of an ecosystem for our innovation to thrive. Because if it's just one school in science does it, or let us say because of Rotary, we do 5 schools or 10 schools in Mumbai, that is not going to create innovative mindset, because it will limit itself to a particular section, and it may flourish, it may not flourish, but it's a long shot. But if we do it over a bigger area, if we do it over, let us say, all of India, and I'm really encouraged that Mr. Sanghvi, was here and he attended the function. So definitely, I'm sure that he can help us get to that. But if we reach that kind of level, that kind of volume, then you can imagine that innovation is something even Indians can do. Today, already we are doing a lot of work in Bangalore and Mumbai and Pune and some of the other cities. where there's innovative designing and development happening. But for us to create this kind of ecosystem, we definitely need a big push. And I think Rotary, with its background, and especially I'm always proud to think that in India, it's always Rotary is always given credit for eradication of polio. I was talking to Rajendra ji today morning also, that I always feel proud that that Rotary has been able to do that and eradicate polio from our country practically. Now I think that this is the next big push that we need to push this kind of education to create innovative thinking and take India to this #1 level in terms of technology and innovation. And with the help of all of you eminent members, I'm very sure that we should be able to do that. I think with this, I will stop my talk or speech. And once again, I thank everybody, Mr. Sunil Mehra and Rajendra Bhatia ji and Mr. Agarwal. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Such inspiring talk. Sunil ji, can you give your short 2-minute feedback?
I don't think there's much to feedback except that they were brilliant and very deep insight. It's very obvious by adding the inclusion of AI in education, the workforce of the future will be better prepared to face the unknown challenges of the workplace of tomorrow. So it's best to include AI at the education level, which is the school levels and the early stage levels, so that we don't have these problems later in life. I think it's a beautiful insight into AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil ji. Rajendra ji, Rajendra Agrawal ji is still here.
Yes, I'm there.
Haji sir, if you can say 2 words, 2 minutes.
Yes, I'll just take 2 minutes. DG Sunil, PDG Shashi, DGN Sandeep, President Rajendra Bhatia, Coast Club Presidents, members of the clubs, and excellent speakers Nitin and Rajendra. We are 3 Rajendras here today, so I'm the third one speaking. So it was an excellent presentation, and I think this innovation, what you talked about, the science, the school at Science you talked about, it would be really wonderful to visit and support and promote this, what you have been talking over here. When the president called me, Rajendra Bhatia called me to be present today and listen to you, it was my pleasure, and I would have really missed if you would have not come here today.
Thank you, sir.
What you all mentioned about the talks and innovation. So let me share something little different. I would not like to repeat what is happening. You all mentioned about, the passion. What like you're talking now कि आपका जो passion था बचपन में और जो गैरेज में काम करते थे या गैरेज में करते थे, तो ये जो passion develop होता है, that is the unique thing. The students which will be taught to discover their unique talent and the passion they have got by these skill programs. Once the children understand what they love to do and they express their unique talents that they possess, and they are giving opportunities, it will take them to unbelievable height. I remember reading about all these things in a book by Deepak Chopra once upon a time. Every human being possesses very unique talents which are like the best in the world, but they have to be brought up, they have to be discovered. And once that thing is done, those human beings can, with their passion and hard work, can go to that level what you're talking about, the CEOs of the top companies of the world. So I request that everyone should be given this opportunity. The children should be given a chance to express themselves, and they will be like the CEOs we're talking about of the world. Lastly, to add, is I would say, with what is happening in this world, with the COVID times, be safe and healthy and be with nature. All the science of the world has failed in front of what is happening in this world. So let us be with nature, protect the air and water and animals and the plants, and make the world a better place to live. Thank you for inviting me, Rajendra Bhatia. It was wonderful being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Rajendra ji. Sandeep ji, can you just give 2 minutes feedback? Sandeep Agarwala ji.
So what do I say? I was mesmerized, even though I've seen the lab myself when it was inaugurated. I was really mesmerized at the possibilities and the extreme widening of horizons the student can undergo a radical transformation with what has been planned by both Pradhanji as well as our distinguished speaker, Nitinji. And I'm very, very fortunate to have heard them today. My heartiest congratulations to both of them for having actually bring this to fruition and make it so successful. And I hope this will replicate itself in the coming years and Rotary takes it up very seriously, not only in our district, but throughout India. So thank you for inviting me, Rajendra ji, and all the very best to both of them in their endeavors.
Thank you, sir. Sir, finally, I'll ask everybody to just wait for 3 minutes more. We would like to offer a hearty vote of thanks. Our club secretary and president nominee, Rakesh Shah, will offer a mix of vote of thanks and the secretarial announcements together. Yeah, Rakesh bhai.
Yeah. President Rotarian Rajendra Bhatia, dignitaries, invited guests, and friends. Good evening, all. I am privileged to propose a hearty vote of thanks to all the distinguished dignitaries, speakers, and others present, which have made today's meeting the most cherished one for all of us. Before I do that, incidentally, I am also the honorary secretary of the club this year. Let me quickly, in a couple of minutes, for the benefit of my club members, go through our future meetings and projects for the month. 6th September, fellowship team led by IPP and fellowship director Bhavna Badreswara has planned virtual fashion show. 35 hands have already sent their participants and videos, and finals will be on 13th September. 10th September, we have organized interesting meeting on subject learnings from the life of Swami Vivekananda. Speaker will be Mr. Sunil Sastri. 17th September, Colonel Nawaz Sharif, who is an animal crusader, will deliver an interesting talk on conservation and rescue of urban wildlife. 20th September, Environment Director Rotarian Vipul Gaglani has organized a seminar on environment, whereby we are inviting all the office bearers of cooperative societies situated in Kandivali, and we will have 3 distinguished speakers who will speak on 1, waste management, 2, plastic recycling, and 3, solar projects, thereby creating awareness for the societies situated in Kandivali. 24th September, our own member Rotarian Davar Vakharia and his wife Kejal are going to present an interesting study on Ram Mandir, its history, and the Supreme Court judgment. 15th October, RID Rotarian Bharat Pandya will address us on being Rotarian.
1st October.
1st October, sorry. Members attended today's meeting, more than 100. Actually, most of the 10 to 15 people were waiting outside the waiting room. That's the end of my secretarial duties. Friends, you will agree with me that we have the most memorable meeting today, not only for the presence and participation of all the eminent dignitaries and leading lights of Rotary world, but also for the awareness of a visionary educational project for schools, which had the potential to transform education, teaching, and learning by the pioneers, Mr. Nitin and Mr. Pradhan. We have no doubt that this project will make a difference to the education system, and we really are the principals and trustees present today to take it up, and we at Rotary will be the most happy to assist and serve them. I, on behalf of President Rajendra Bhatia, my club members, and on my behalf, thanks RID Rotarian Kamal Sanghvi, beloved DG Rotarian Sunil Mehra, ever supportive DGE Rotarian Rajendra Agarwal, ever motivating DGN and my year's DG Rotarian Sandeep Agarwala, DS Rotarian Deepak Chaudhary, AG Rotarian Mayank Desai, PTG Rotarian Sashi Sharma, all the presidents of our co-hosting clubs, the stalwarts and visionaries of this visionary project, Mr. Nitin Komawar and Mr. Rajendra Pradhan, all the invited trustees, principals, and teachers of all the schools who were present for their time, energy, presence, and participation in making this meeting a grand success. I request you all to join me in proposing a well-deserved vote of thanks by pressing a loud round of applause button on the Zoom. Thank you. Over to you, President.
Rajendra, the only time that Sandeep Agarwala smiled is when Rakesh said, he's my DG.
Why not?
Why not means yes, surely. So, thank you, Rakesh bhai. Hope friends, you must have got some value out from today's meeting.